into a fifth straight week of Republicans refusing to convene the House of Representatives, a fifth straight week of unplanned vacation. Apparently,
Donald Trump está perdiendo el control, no solo sobre el país, sino sobre su propio partido. Mientras millones de familias enfrentan a un gobierno paralizado, él prefiere culpar a los inmigrantes, atacar a los demócratas y ahora, en un giro digno de una telenovela política, apunta contra los republicanos que no le rinden a él. Y lo peor, lo hace mientras el país entero paga el precio de su incompetencia. Mira este clip a continuación.
About the government shutdown that requires Congress to be out of session? They're supposed to be in session, but for a fifth straight week, they are calling in sick, canceling class, refusing to convene the House, and, perhaps not incidentally, refusing to swear in the new member of Congress from Arizona, Adelita Grijalva, who won a special election last month, but they won't allow her to be sworn in, and they won't say why, but Democrats will say why they think it is, and it's because she would be the 218th and therefore the deciding vote to force a release of the Epstein files, in which President Trump himself reportedly plays a fairly starring role. Trump's attorney general has reportedly told him his name appears in the Epstein files multiple times. Trump, perhaps unsurprisingly, is refusing to release those files. But once Adelita Grijalva is sworn in, they may no longer legally be able to refuse the release of those files any longer. And so we are now heading into a fifth straight week of Republicans refusing to convene the House of Representatives, a fifth straight week of unplanned vacation. Apparently just to try to protect Trump from whatever is in those Epstein files about him. On day 17 of the government shutdown, government workers and military families are lining up at food pantries all over the country. Trump is apparently excited to have another crack at firing the people involved in keeping our nuclear weapons safe. They're citing the shutdown to go through with an 80% furlough of the National Nuclear Security Administration as of Monday morning. Remember, they accidentally fired all the national nuclear security people right at the beginning of Trump's term in office, and then they said, oops, we didn't mean to do that, and they brought them all back. Well, now they are furloughing all of them. These are the people who keep our nuclear weapons safe from, theft or going off when they shouldn't. Yeah, who needs them? Democrats say their price for relenting on the shutdown is that Republicans need to reverse their changes to health insurance. Their policy changes that are going to spike people's health insurance costs in very short order, almost by almost unbelievable amounts. And I will show you what I mean. States are now starting to release the actual numbers on what the Republicans' policy changes have done to health insurance costs with this legislation that they've passed this year. This is what the Democrats have been making a stink about. You've heard, Democrats are concerned in the shutdown fight about healthcare costs and health insurance, and you think, oh, Democrats are always concerned about health costs. That's nice. I care about health costs. I'm glad they're standing up for it. No, it's this specific thing. You want to know what the Democrats are making a stink about with the shutdown? You want to know what the Democratic side is of the fight over the shutdown? Look at these numbers from the New York Times tonight. Look at this. This is for the tens of millions of Americans who get their health insurance through the online marketplaces. Look. Based on the newly posted information, meaning the pricing information that's now being posted in multiple states, a family of four making $130,000 in Maine, so you combine the family's income, everybody's salaries, you got up to $130,000, that family would
Todo encaja en un Congreso que no trabaja, un país paralizado y un presidente obsesionado con esconder su propio escándalo. El supuesto presidente del pueblo resultó ser el presidente de los multimillonarios. Mientras culpaba a los migrantes de robar la salud pública, los únicos que realmente se llevan tu dinero son él y su gabinete de magnate. Y como si no bastara con eso, ahora su furia apunta hacia adentro contra los republicanos que no se alinean contra él. La ironía es grotesca. El presidente que presume ser América primero está dilapidando decenas de miles de millones en el extranjero, mientras que aquí, en casa, los veteranos no cobran, las familias pierden y sus granjas y los precios se disparan. Trump no entiende, es más, no quiere entender, que las tarifas que impuso funcionan como impuestos para la clase media, mientras tanto, los agricultores estadounidenses son devorados por la competencia extranjera, competencia financiada precisamente con dinero de su propio gobierno. Y ahora sí, Trump insiste en que los culpables son los demás, no su corrupción, no su torpeza, no sus políticas suicidas.
Harvard standing up and all the other universities were too intimidated to say no. Well, now even the ones that caved before or that signed deals before with Trump, places like Brown University, even those schools have now learned that maybe signing deals with Trump is not a good idea. Trying to appease him, trying to stay on his good side is folly. It just shows weakness. It invites him to come back and bully you some more. And so in quick succession, we have seen MIT and Brown and Penn and USC and now UVA as well. They've all told the Trump White House, no, we're not doing it. We're not signing on to your little compact to restrict our academic freedom and our ideological freedom of movement in order to try to keep you happy. No, we are not doing it. We have learned our lesson. Forget it. The Pentagon press corps, all the real reporters at the Pentagon, even the ones from Fox News, this week all walked out in unison, telling Trump, no, we're not going to do it either. We're not going to agree to just write down what you tell us instead of doing actual journalism. No, we are not doing it. They walked out in unison, en masse. They told him no. In Chicago, we're seeing spontaneous protests in every city, neighborhood, and in every suburb against Trump's apparently untrained, totally out of their depth paramilitary dress-up immigration agents who, among other things, are now regularly tear-gassing Chicago police officers. A federal judge has now ordered Trump's federal agents from the bench, quote, you can't deploy tear gas. You can't use flashbang grenades. You can't drive a car through a crowd. You can't shoot them in the head with pepper balls. The judge has ordered that Trump's federal agents in Chicago must not only change their ridiculous tactics, they must now wear body cameras, and they must have them turned on. A different federal judge had ruled that the National Guard cannot be deployed to Illinois. That ruling has now been upheld by a unanimous 3-judge panel of a federal appeals court. In Washington, D.C., where Trump installed yet another Fox News host to be U.S. attorney in that city, they tried once, they tried twice, they tried 3 times to convince a grand jury to bring a felony criminal indictment against one D.C. resident who was part of a protest there. All 3 times, the grand jury refused to move ahead with those felony charges. Janine Pirro's office then instead finally charged this young woman with a misdemeanor for which they put her on trial. That was yesterday. The jury laughed them out of the courtroom and acquitted her yesterday afternoon after about a nanosecond of deliberation. As Trump continues to personally order up criminal indictments against people he doesn't like, James Comey, Tish James, now John Bolton. Tonight, 2 more veteran prosecutors have reportedly been fired after refusing to bring what they believe to be a baseless prosecution against New York Attorney General Tish James. Yesterday, in that district, in the Eastern District of Virginia, a judge who is Trump appointed took a moment, a dramatic moment from the bench at the conclusion of a big national security case, took a moment from the bench to praise James Comey's son-in-law, who recently resigned as a prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia when that office.
El poder de Trump se resquebraja por todos sus lados. Su partido se divide, los tribunales lo frenan, las universidades lo desafían y su gobierno se hunde en una parálisis que afecta directamente al ciudadano común. Pero su respuesta no es corregir el rumbo, es más bien la de un hombre acorralado, desesperado por culpar a cualquiera menos a sí mismo. Lo que estamos viendo es el colapso político y psicológico de un líder incapaz de gobernar sin enemigos. Trump no sabe construir, solo destruir. Destruyó su partido, la estabilidad económica y la confianza en las instituciones. Y cada día que pasa sin asumir la responsabilidad arrastra a Estados Unidos más cerca del abismo. Su América primero terminó siendo Trump primero y todo lo demás después. Esto es Rumor de Estado.